Okay guys, here I am on another crazy day with a crazy looking instrument right in front of me. But for those of you who've had a vibrato alto sax in the past, it's perhaps not so crazy. So this is obviously now the tenor version called the T1. And kind of long awaited really in my eyes, in the sense that I've heard that the company who make these instruments, Vibrato, have been producing this tenor for a while, and they'd promised various improvements in the structure and the build quality and the overall result of the instrument. And I've received this sample just a few days ago, and I'm delighted to say that it's a very good instrument indeed. It's worth saying that when we stocked the altos before, they were a lot of fun and a lot of people had a lot of joy with them. We had a few issues here and there in terms of the build quality. The intonation was one of the factors, but particularly in the build there were quite a few flexing parts that caused a few headaches for our technicians, shall we say. But Vibrato have addressed so many aspects to it that it's almost like a revised instrument in many ways. So let me just go through some of those right now. First of all, just an interesting little aside. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the quality necessarily, but check this out. The bell comes straight off. It's a screw-on bell. That's just the way it stores in the case, and that just pops back in, twists sideways, and there you have it, the bell section. Beyond that though, what they have done in terms of the pad application is that previously these silicon floppy material pads were just entirely that, just a silicon disc that self-leveled on the tone holes. Same thing applies now, but we have this supporting circle made from a solid plastic. I believe it may be the same material that the body of this instrument is made from, which is poly-carbonate, by the way, and in this case it is called the Nude. So previously we've stocked just white solid plastic versions, and we have stocked the Nude version of the alto, but this is clearly the Nude version of the tenor. No explanation needed there. So back to the pads, we have this supporting structure behind the silicon pad, which just helps the sort of solidarity of the contact with the pad against the tone hole. And so for my money, it's a much more true contact with the pad. So I find the response much better on this straight away. So that's one great thing. Secondly, the mechanism has all changed. They've got everything here is kind of very easy to assemble in terms of technicians making removing parts and making alterations themselves if they needed to, for example, put a spare part on, remove a part in order to do that. Everything is bolted on with tiny little cross-head screws here, so our technicians will in the future have an abundance of spare parts. So if they need to replace something for any reason, very easy to do so indeed. So that makes it a lot easier for our technical team. And there's a lot more solidarity in the rods, and I believe there's a different hinge mechanism here at the end of each rod, making this whole mechanism much more secure. The intonation has definitely improved. I would say it's not perfect. For my money, it's still slightly flat on the top, but you can easily lip it in tune. You just need to be aware that it's going to pitch slightly flat at the top, and you just need to be pushing on it as opposed to really dropping on it, which is the sort of standard thing that most sax players would go for when you're playing in the upper reaches around the palm keys. For my money, it's particularly on the front E and F. They're a little flat compared to the palm key versions. Just give you a quick demo. That's why you want it there on the palm keys, but when you move to the just to the front auxiliary E and F, the pitch drops a little bit, so you just have to be careful with the application of that particular key, the auxiliary key here, but still useful for going into the altissimo, which you can easily do on this instrument. But other than that, everything's just been evened out a little bit with the intonation. I remember it used to be a fair bit flat actually at the top, but this, when you do the sort of the G octave and the A octave and the B octave, standard sort of notes in the mid-range, it's much better. Yeah, so that's truer there. You can see I put my own mouthpiece on it. This is just a retro revival metal piece here, and it slots on very nicely onto the sort of rubberized cork, if you like, here. You've got the usual amount of kind of cork distance there to play around with for intonation, but for my money it works much better when it's almost fully down, or you do find yourself a lot flatter at the top. Also, it does ship, whoops, with its own mouthpiece. Inevitably, a see-through mouthpiece and a nice little ring ligature there. So you can utilize this if you want to go for that completely transparent look. But I've got my own mouthpiece on here because it's the one I trust and know. So let's give it a bit of a fuller blast, shall we? Etc. Bit of dire straits for you there. So yeah, it's just a nice sound. There's nothing particularly special about the sound. You tend to just get a regular kind of tenor sax sound that shows the character of whatever your setup here is at the front end. I would say that the sound inevitably is a bit more kind of muted, and you don't so much get those kind of high frequencies and the kind of pinging frequencies that you get with the resonance of a brass or a bronze instrument. So it's, for my money, a little bit more resistant. I just have to push the sound through a bit more in order to really get it to speak and to ring. So a little bit more effort required, but I think if you go for a slightly lighter reed, the whole thing will just come to life. And in fact, the first time I tried it, I did use a lighter reed and I found myself just whizzing around on it without any issue. This is a slightly stuffier reed here. The sound is still very pleasant and very workable, and it's the keys are plastic keys, and there's a certain amount of flex there, so that takes a certain bit of getting used to when you're moving around technically, but it's all still there. Everything's in the right place. You can move around very easily and naturally, just as I'm doing that. That's complete chromatics working, no problem at all. So it's a very playable instrument. It has a novelty value to it for sure. I mean, just look at it. You know, people who are going to buy this will already be saxophone players, and they're going to be adding this to their armory for whatever reason it might be. And there is a novelty aspect to it, but it's at the same time highly giggable. It is basically in tune, with the exception of the slight issues that I've mentioned there. And if you want to go out there and gig with something as crazy looking as this, where your saliva, as it is doing here, forms down the instrument, then go for it, because it's just something a little bit different. So check out these T1 vibrato saxes coming into our store very soon.